what's your relationship, if any, with Marcus? I don't know if this is a fact or not, but he was trying to get control of that website, Mike Mentzer's old website, that's no longer up anymore, right? I'm also curious about that. Is there a story behind that as well? Is it
Yeah.
because Joanne passed away that website got taken down, or?
Well, first, when Joanne passed, the ownership of everything Mike Mentzer, everything heavy duty, they asked me to keep them private. So I publicly don't say who they are. They love their privacy. They own it. Currently, they're not doing anything with it, but it doesn't mean that they're not trying to stop people who are illegally using copyrighted material out there. So that part they don't like. But there's new owners. When Joanne died, the website went with it. So they shut down MikeMentzer.com. The question about Marcus is originally we were training partners back in the 90s. Yes. And, before Mike ever shot that final video that he shot with Marcus as the subject, and his brother Ray Mentzer was in there too. Originally, Val Segal was the producer of that video, and Val asked me to shoot the video. They're paying $1,000 to do it. I said to him, I don't want the 1,000. This is going to be going for decades to come. So I'd rather have some on the back end. I'd rather have a percentage on the back end. And they were sure they can get somebody to do it for 1,000. They were right. And I said no. And so the very next day, who'd they get? My training partner. They got Marcus. And so Marcus went ahead and he did it. And I'm fine with that. We were friends at one point and we trained with each other, and we both were students of Mike Mentzer. Marcus always had an online presence, and I don't know whatever happened to that because he ended up, moving to Vegas, and I heard he came on some tough times of various sorts. But I wouldn't call it a falling out as much as a drift that on my part, I was not interested in doing anything, being involved in anything that was going to negatively affect Joanne. Okay. Joanne Sharkey owned MikeMentzer.com and Heavy Duty from the day that he passed in 2001 until she passed in 2021. I worked for her, but I loved her very much. And so anybody who was going to do anything that would negatively impact her, I was not having any part of. So Marcus, whatever he was doing, I was, for lack of trying to be all negative towards him in any way, but whatever he was doing, I believed was not going to positively affect her. So I chose not to be involved. And that effectively ended our friendship in his mind. And so he was not happy about that at all. So I pray for him. I do. And I've prayed for him, and I hope he's doing well and in good health. But we have nothing to do with each other to this day, at this point.
Gotcha.
I should
Gotcha.
say.
Yeah, yeah. And that's interesting because also the fact that he did have an online presence at one point, but yeah, I'm sure some of that's related to what you'd mentioned. He came across hard times, or maybe his goals shifted, priorities shifted. But
sure.
do you have any, and again, I think I know the answer, but I don't want to assume any regrets for not doing those videos? Because obviously they've been passed around like crazy, and they've have hundreds of thousands of views, if not millions, with some of them, I think, at this point, especially added up from all of the videos that have been passed. But any regrets for not doing the video for the 1,000?
No, the quick answer is no. Number one, I'm a businessman when it comes to most of this. And here's the contradiction of terms, sort of to say with regards to myself. While I was in competitive bodybuilding for the titles, and I loved and enjoyed the titles, working towards achieving a title, big name titles. I like Natural Mr. Universe. I like Mr. America. Seeking fame was never my motivation as much. I wanted the money from that business deal with Heavy Duty and Mike Mentzer. I wanted a percentage. I knew the future in that one case. And since that time, I've been very independent. I am known for being, the guy that did handle the consultations for Mike Mentzer. There's clients all around the world that I worked with on behalf of Joanne and Heavy Duty. So they know I was doing that. But as far as doing the video goes, it was so poorly done. And it was all shot in a matter of a day or two. And the weights being used in those workouts with the artificially slow repetitions that Mike never trained me on. Little tidbit for most of you guys who may not have heard this, but Mike never trained anybody until the last few months of his life. He was not training clients. He did do them with 4-second negatives, but on the concentric, on the positive, lifting the weight up, there were no 4-second concentrics. That's not the truth. It was only the last few months of his life he was experimenting with that. And the fact that it made it into the video, I was like, wow. So to this day, I wish they never shot the video, because there's so many people today. Yeah, there's so many people today that associate super slow motion with high intensity training, with heavy duty training. And meanwhile, you could look back at, Mike's videos with his brother Ray from the 80s, the 70s, and you'll see they were not training with anything even close to a slow motion at all cadence. There was none. And when he trained me in the early 90s, the cadence was a controlled 3 or 4 second negative and explosive positive. And if there was something that had a peak contraction on it, like a pec deck or a curl machine, we would hold it for a moment in the fully contracted position, because he believed that had a lot to do with stimulating growth. But the one thing I do regret about not having done that video is that when I was training under Mike in the 90s, this is prior to cell phones. We had pagers back then, okay? When I would go to train with Mike at Gold's Gym in Venice, I was kind of a private guy, and I didn't have somebody come and take pictures of me training with him. I wished I did. I wished somebody videoed it. I look back saying, wow, I don't have one picture of he and I just standing next to each other. There's not one. I was never like that guy to carry a camera around with me. Marcus was. Here's a little credit to Marcus. He always was. He always had a camera or video with him at all times. I never was that guy. I just wanted to train, suck up all the information I could, apply it to my own training, and then move on and do it with other people, my clients. So Mike, it ends up, we found out later on, after I initially trained with him, that I lived right near him on the same block. And so we were conducting our business out of the same gym, both of us individually. And so I was learning from him. He would train me. I'd train clients, and so on and so forth. Throughout a year, I would go back to train with him again. And we were just personally friends at that point. And so I just wish the video wasn't around for that one reason, because I get so many people online on my own videos in my own comment section telling me that I don't know what I'm talking about, or that I don't know what I'm doing because they've seen me do a curl and I did it way too fast. And I'm like, oh my gosh, you don't even know what you're talking about.
Right, right. I suppose it was rare to hold a camera around in the 90s, right? Or like some sort of video, not like today,
yeah.
right?
No. For all of you all who wonder, where are all the videos? Where's all the pictures from those early 90s sections? Ask yourself this one question. You've seen pictures of Dorian training with Mike Mentzer. Mr. Olympia 1992, as he's training in preparation for the 1993 Mr. Olympia. There's videos of him using a curl machine, doing some chest exercises with Mike Mentzer, doing a pull down, a row. But wait a second, where's all the video? This was Mr. Olympia. There was this much video of Mr. Olympia from the same time period that I was training with Mike. 1992, 93, 94. In that era is when I was training with Mike, just when Dorian would come to town to train with him too. He has what? It's the same handful of pictures, 5, 6 pictures maybe, of Dorian being trained by Mike, and that's it. There's nothing. No one even took their cell phone out across the gym and did this, which everybody does today. So
with the flip, they had the flip. Was there a flip phone back then? It was the 90s. There was nothing, right? In the 90s, you had the disposable cameras, but
we had Polaroids. But I'll tell you what we had. I owned a side business at the time, and it was a coin-operated kiddie ride business. It was all over Southern California, from Mexico all the way halfway up the state. So I would do a lot of driving on days I wasn't training clients. I would reserve days to do that, and I had 3 guys working for me. So when I would do that, I would have to have, because I drive around the mountains and all that, I'd have to have an actual cell phone in my truck. So in my glove compartment, I would never use it. I always had it fully charged. The thing was industrial strength. It was bigger than my head. I mean, it was this big, and then it had an antenna that was longer than that. So that was the going cell phone of the early 90s. So it quickly changed from that to the Nokia. That was around the late 90s. It was like a little rectangular phone. And then the flip phone came after that. And then, of course, we went to smartphones in the early 2000s, or 2010 or so. Everything blew up with smartphones. So the world has changed because of that. The world has changed. That's the reason why you don't see many pictures of Dorian, or any pictures of me and him. But I'm glad at least some people can verify that I was handling the heavy duty consultations for 11, 12 years, from 2008 to 2021. Yeah, something like that.
Wow. Yeah, that's a great point. I never thought about it. Where is the footage? You're right. Only the pictures. Like, that's in John Little's book, the high intensity training, Mike Mentzer Mentzer way. I believe he has the pictures with him and Dorian, Mike training Dorian Yates. But there's no, do I have that? I think they're in that book. I know they're in one of the books, right? One of the, or is it the heavy duty where the pictures of Mike and Dorian?
The original heavy duty, he's in there, heavy duty with the white cover.
But he was also,
then,
were there pictures? I have the book. I'll have to go back and check, but I feel like I saw those pictures in the Mike Mentzer, high intensity training, the Mike Mentzer way.
Mike Mentzer way.
Yeah, I believe they're in that book as well. But nonetheless, there's no video, and I never put the 2 and 2 together. It makes sense that there wouldn't be unless, someone went out of their way to bring that video camera, which was rare, super rare probably. Yeah. Did you feel like that was the, we'll say, ideal amount for you during your competitive reign? Because you started that routine in the 90s. And I remember reading an article also on, I think it was like, I have it actually pulled up here. I want to say it's Ian Duckett's channel. You had my most result producing routine. And that's this one that we're talking about, the